Hello, welcome to our series where we'll be making an app from scratch. A little bit of background that I think may be helpful. So, years ago, I had this idea for an app for families. I'm a family man, I've got three kids, and I want to help them be the best kind of adults that they can be. So I was thinking, how can I help drive behavior for my kids in a way that's meaningful, right? I want to help them want to choose to do good things, right? And so I came up with this idea that, hey, what if I had an app where in my family I could award points to my kids for doing awesome things? So if you're familiar with like Class Dojo in the school system, it's kind of similar to that, right? That was one of the major inspirations. And also Duolingo, right? Sort of like if you were to take those two apps, put them together, they had a baby. That's essentially what Kudosy, the app that I was dreaming up, was going to be and was supposed to be. So I ended up spending. I eventually decided, hey, I really wanted to build this thing out, and ended up spending like $50,000 trying to get this app off the ground with a bunch of engineers overseas. And what we've created, I think, is something really cool. It's something that I'm really proud of. But now, in an age of AI, it just feels like we can do everything so much better, so much more comprehensively, and it will give me the ability to sort of make more changes on the fly to make it even better for my family and for all the users that want to use this thing. So a little bit more background here. If it is an iPhone app, so this is the app itself. It's called Kudosy Family Wallet, where you gamify good behavior. And so you can see a little bit of the background here of what it is and those sorts of things. But here is sort of the homepage experience where basically each one of your kids has like a debit card where they earn points. And then as they earn points, they can achieve their goals. And so there's treasure chest where people can choose what sorts of goals that they want to work towards. So, maybe my daughter might say, oh my gosh, I really want this unicorn thing. It's going to be super cool. It's going to cost 180 kudos. So she could set that as her goal and then work towards that as she does good things. And the good things is completely controlled by us as parents, right? So we can say, hey, we really want you to clean your room, and we'll give you a couple kudos for doing that. Or, hey, we really want you to move quickly. We want you to brush and floss and put on your pajamas so you can get into bed really quickly. So it's not a fight, but that you want to do this because you want to save up to earn your goal, the thing that you wanted to do. Here's sort of also how their experience there, as you can see that. And we've also added in the ability to add in different experiences instead of just purchasing things, right? So lots of cool stuff. And then the other thing that we've got time challenges. The other thing that's not listed here that I think is really cool is I'm also a big like finance guy. I love personal finance. I love teaching how to improve your finances. And so one of the things that also this app allows you to do is that it helps kids. They can invest their kudos and can take those kudos and they can invest in more things. So pretty cool concept, right? So overall, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build this same app from scratch and improve it along the way, right? So there are certain things that, maybe this is not the exact right UI user interface that should be used here. So how can we make this app better? So a couple of things to consider, right? If you're familiar with the other videos that I've posted, you'll know that I'm a big proponent of planning before you start building. And so I want to do a little bit of planning here. This for sure, will be an iOS app. One thing though to note about iOS apps is if you put an app on the App Store, that's really awesome. You can leverage their whole ecosystem, but in order to do that, you pay them a commission. And so you have to factor that in of like Apple typically does a 30% commission, unless you're just starting, and then they'll give you a break and they'll give you a 15% commission until you get to a certain point, right? So it's a significant amount. And then you add in taxes and other things, and like literally half of your income from an app can all just be evaporated before it ever even hits your bank account. So that's something to consider. There's also, we're talking here about the Apple App Store. Kudosy itself is not on the Google Play Store, and that's also by design. The Google Play Store is another place where you can leverage a huge ecosystem. There's tons of users, but that's just a whole different code base, unless you want to do sort of this hybrid code, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, right? So if you code in the Apple ecosystem, you get all these benefits. You get their accessibility and things, which is really helpful. Similarly with Google, but if you try to split the difference and go between them, that can be kind of tricky. So, anyways, so now that I've lived that experience with Apple, that we've had the app live and they're using 30% of they're taking 30% commission on it off everything that I earn. I've learned of a new strategy. And the strategy basically is one that's leveraged by lots of these online tools where basically you create a website, people can sign up for the app through your website, then you get the full amount of dollars coming in. Apple doesn't need to take their commission. And then when they renew, that's when Apple can take their commission, right? So it's a way to keep more of the dollars. So that's something I want to do here as well. And so let's dive into this. And one of the things too, that as we dive in, we want to use Claude in this case, but just AI in general, to help us figure out how to plan this thing. So I saw another YouTuber mention this, and I spot on. He called it the BIP method, where you have a brain dump, you then have an interview, and then you have a prompt. And so we'll go through those steps, and so you'll see live, real time, what it looks like to build these things, right? So this is certainly going to be a longer type series. There's going to be longer videos. It's not going to be as snappy as your typical YouTube video, but for those of you who are really looking to build an app from the ground up and you want to see someone who does not have a ton of technical expertise building this app so you can see sort of what to expect, this is the place to see it, right? I want to make it so it's super transparent so you can see everything that goes right, everything that goes wrong, everything that's quick and snappy and cool, and all the facepalm moments too, where you're like, crap, I did that totally wrong. That I just want you to see how this actually looks. That's the intention of this series of videos. And the goal is by the end of this thing, we'll be able to launch this app and it'll get out to all of the people. I know if along the way you guys want to check out Kudosy or whatever, once it's live, this new version, you can do that, or you can check out the existing version if you're curious about that as well. Right now, we've got a free 7-day trial, and then it's $3.99 a month, or $24.99 for the year. So it's super cheap if you're interested in checking that out. If not, no worries. This is an education thing. This is just about helping you walk through the process. So first things first, inside of Claude, one of the best cheat codes that I've learned is to first create projects. So I've created a project called Kudosy Reimagined. And here, I gave it a little description, but we're going to do everything that we can inside of this ecosystem, inside of this project folder, because then the AI will be able to reference everything else that has occurred in here. So this will be really awesome. Second is right here, you can choose what type of LLM you want to use here, which model you want. And so we're going to use Fable 5. Fable 5 is incredible. And if you've been following all this AI stuff, it's just like a really, really cool model. So I want to take advantage of Fable 5, especially right now, because there's sort of this free experience where you get a bunch of Fable 5 included in your plans. So let's just jump in. Okay, so first of all, I could start typing things in, but I'm going to try to talk through each of these instead. So, okay, I am trying to build an app. This app, I want to do a bunch of different things. First of all, I want it to be inspired by Class Dojo and Duolingo. I like the look and feel of those apps, and I like how fun they are and how gamified they are. The purpose of this app is to help gamify good behavior and help kids actually want to succeed. I want the ability for parents to be able to give their kids kudos for doing good things, and parents can specify what those good things are. I also want to give families access to a treasure chest where parents can specify the items that kids can earn. I also want some of the items that kids can earn to be experiences other than items. So let's say a family just doesn't have a lot of money. They can't buy the most expensive toys. Well, instead, let's make it possible where baking with mom or going to the park with dad is an activity that they can purchase kudos with. I also want there to be a bend of personal finance in this where kids have to learn how to manage a finite resource. In this case, I don't want to use real dollars. I want to use a fictional currency called Kudos. So that way kids can play with this currency without it having real world implications. I want also parents to be able to create a savings rate for their kids. So kids can invest their Kudos, and that their Kudos can grow over time at the investing rate that their parents have specified. For example, I want parents. Okay. I'm worried to do it again because I don't want to lose what I just wrote there. For example, I want parents to be able to specify the term of the investment and the length, the ROI of that investment. I have existing assets that can also be used as avatars that kids can choose from. And I want kids to be able to personalize their own Kudosy card in the app so they can feel more attached to the experience. The app should be called Kudosy. Please help me make this brain dump more concise and interview me on what questions you have. My ultimate goal is for you to help me create a prompt that I can use so that AI can help build this app from the ground up. I want to build a web app that users can sign up for using a Stripe integration. I found that Stripe works really well for this sort of thing. And I want the app to actually, let's do this. I want to build a website that users can sign up for using a Stripe integration. I want the app to ultimately live on the Apple App Store. Okay, so this is, again, we're remembering back to that framework, BIP. This is the brain dump. So you'll see that I just put in a ton of information here. Not all of it makes sense chronologically. It's just a bunch of information. That right there is on purpose. We're just getting all the information out and we can go from there, right? So this is going to help make it more concise, and let's see what it spits out with. Again, we're inside of this project, so everything is we're going to start building context here that's really helpful. So first of all, love this concept. AI, you'll find, is incredibly agreeable. So it will never tell you this sucks unless you ask it to say, does this suck? So that's something that is probably worth noting, is that, like, just because AI says, attaboy, good to go, this is amazing, does not actually mean that. So if you are at an earlier phase, you're trying to test the idea, then you should go back and forth and you should ask AI, hey, is this a stupid idea, right? Is this something that is not actually going to work? That's something that you should have all those conversations before. I already, though, have an app that is running. It exists. I know that that it's interesting. This is something I'm passionate about. I want to get it out into the world. So I don't need to do the back and forth. I've already done that for years. So I'm going to just move forward. But that's just something to know, that, like, as you're building your app, AI can be incredible. Not only can it help you code the thing, but it can also help you do all the market research to figure out if people will actually purchase this thing. Do people care about this thing? Is this a problem that people have? And that's, again, a different video, but very, very important to do those steps. And so there will be other videos that will be here to talk about each of those. But for this series, again, is really dedicated to just getting this part. Okay, so now it says, hey, it's a clear mashup of Class Dojo's parent-child dynamic with Duolingo's gamification. plus a genuinely smart personal finance layer. Again, it just loves to to compliment you. It's very sweet, but again, it's you kind of have to take it as a grain of salt. Okay, so gamify good behaviors so kids want to succeed while teaching money management through play. Perfect, right? One of the things that the way that I've sort of marketed this in the past and it's resonated with people is that Kudosy is also like this financial playground, right? So like if you want to get good at basketball, the way you get good at basketball is by playing basketball. If you want to get good at money, the way you get good at money is by using and spending money, right? You spend money in a stupid way, you spend money in a smart way, you see the differences, you learn, you improve, and then you just get better and better and better. Problem is if you don't have money to play with, you can't play the game. And so that's one of the big pieces here is like Kudosy is a financial playground. So you can go in, you can make stupid decisions. It is, regardless if your family has all the money in the world or you're just flat out broke, it still provides a place for you to play and learn about financial principles. So I love how it got that, right? Like from my brain dump, it figured out what I was trying to do. So this is really cool. Okay, and that's another thing. As you're working with AI, you just want to make sure that this it is understanding correctly what you're trying to convey. Otherwise, you got to go back. You got to retell it. You have to make sure that it can explain to you exactly what you are thinking, right? So, it's a very good empathetic rule of thumb, right? When you're working with people, you say, okay, repeat that back to me. I want to make sure that I understood, or you are speaking like trying to clarify. So what I hear you're saying is this, right? That's sort of the same thing that you're trying to do with AI. That same principle applies here and is really valuable. So anyways, that's good. I like that. So there's a kudos system. Parents define good behaviors and award kudos, which is a fictional currency. Very important. When kids do that, treasure chest, a family reward store where parents list what kudos can buy. Critically, rewards can be experiences, not just physical items. Yep. Investing in savings. Parents set investment terms. Kids can lock up kudos to watch them grow. Perfect. Kids can pick avatars. You have existing assets and customize their own Kudosy card to build attachment. Yep. And that in that world, attachment is meaning like they're attached to the app. They don't want to leave the app. Okay. Design language, playful, colorful, gamified, class Duolingo. What you'll notice is I specifically called out these apps because there is a design system in those apps that I really like. There's a lot of white space. The characters are colorful. They're also very character focused, which I think is really important and helpful. And so like that's really big. So I just had a fun idea that maybe we can play with later. But there are some tools also that can take the assets that I have here and animate them and make them cooler. And so that'll be something we can explore, but that's pretty far down the road. So we'll see when that time comes. But like what you'll find is as you're working with AI, your brain will just go a million miles an hour. You're like, oh my gosh, I could do this, and I could do this, and I can do this other thing. And that's exactly right, right? Like that's exactly the point, and that's exactly why this whole age is so exciting. It's like you are the director of a movie with an unlimited budget, and you can just build stuff, which is really exciting, but also like people say, oh yeah, I'd be great at doing something like that. But like when they actually do it, often they suck. It takes practice to figure out how to have good taste and how to combine ideas together into something that's meaningful. And so again, that's hopefully some of the value you're getting as you're watching this is seeing different ways to approach this and how you can build that skill set and how you can think in a way that is more driven by how people are going to use this as opposed to just hey, can the code do it, right? Because a lot of people can come up with a lot of cool, I think developers especially love to do this. They're like, oh, this is a cool concept and I just want to build it because it's cool. But then at the end of the day, if no one wants to use that thing, then it becomes much less exciting, right? Kudosy is something that I built and our family uses it all the time. We use it pretty much every day. And so it's rewarding to see something that you build have positive impact. And if no one's using the app, you're not going to have positive impact. So anyways, I digress. Let's jump back into this and talk through this more. So we've got a web sign up with Stripe subscription billing, ultimately a native iOS app. Let me interview you. Perfect. Okay. So these questions that come up here, this is the interview. So how do you want to monetize it? So I'll do something else. We'll do monthly or annual subscriptions. So one thing too that I think is also interesting with apps is sometimes apps offer lifetime subscriptions. And that's something I've played with Kudosy, though I am a little hesitant to do that. I'm not sure exactly how that would be received and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to put monthly and annual for now because that's what we do today. But, as you're watching this, would love to hear your comments on if a lifetime subscription made sense for something like this, if that would be of interest, especially to those of you with families. Um, it might be that's something I still need to gather more information on. But for now, I'm going to keep the code simple and just do monthly and annual subscriptions. We can complicate it later with adding in a third tier, and that should be pretty straightforward. So we'll go ahead and answer for version 1. What should we build first? Okay, so let's do. This is a great question, and again, this is sort of it comes down to the taste and what you want to do. So Kudosy currently is an iOS only app. I think that's valuable. And I think that's where people are actually using this from. So, yeah, especially in our experience. So, we've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old. And life is so chaotic. There's no way that we're going to stop what we're doing to run to a computer, to go onto a website, to do the thing. And an app is just simpler and cleaner, which is why we start with the iOS app only. One thing though that I think is becoming more normal, and I think would be super valuable, and something that we certainly talked about as a family is man, wouldn't it be cool if get the AI Siri or whatever to add kudos for us? So you don't even have to open the app, right? You're trying to make it as easy as possible to give these kudos, right? So that way, as the kid is brushing their teeth, you don't have to fumble to find your phone. The phone's not in the other room. Your computer's not over there. You can just do it all at once, and it's straight and easy. So we'll just do iOS app only for now. Later, we'll add in other things, and Siri functionality is certainly something that I want to add in over time. How many kids should one family support? We'll do unlimited kids. I don't I don't want to penalize people that decide to have more children. So if you want to have 10 kids, more power to you. This app will probably be even more valuable to you. So yeah, unlimited kids will be great. How do kids access the app? Okay, so currently Kudosy is interesting because Kudosy is only on the parent's device. And I think we're going to keep doing that. But I do like the idea of profile switching. Right now, we don't really have a profile switch. What we do have, if you'll recall, is we've got this kids mode where you can there's certain windows, like this treasure chest window where you turn on a kids mode and you can see all the stuff that's relevant to you. I like what it's proposing here, that there would be a kid's profile, which is pretty interesting. That way they can have a whole experience dedicated just to them, which I think is super sweet. And then I think if you have a kid's profile, it lends itself to being able to allow kids to log in on their own devices. You can just sort of leverage that and again, make it more complicated later. So here, what you'll find is, so we'll go with this one ultimately, will be the answer we go with. But kids logging in on their own devices, cool in concept, but when you think about what that actually implies, it implies that, okay, now I got to create sort of a separate app experience where they have a separate sign in. They're going to have a different username and password. But what if the kid is young? If you've got a 2-year-old, they're not going to have an email and a password. They're not going to have their own devices. And so, logistically, it becomes kind of a nightmare. But certainly, if I've got older kids that are more teenage age or whatever, that want to be able to manage this sort of stuff and want to look at it more closely, well, yeah, having kids have their own devices is going to be helpful. But again, lots of steps. And as you sort of think through and anticipate how the user will actually interact with this, it seems like way more trouble than it's worth right now. So let's just go ahead with just profile switching. Love the idea. I think it's really great. Okay. What age range are you designing for? So yeah, so age range, ages 3 through 13 is what I typically say. If you're super young, and again, we use actually on our 2-year-old, we use this with our 2-year-old, which is really helpful because at the beginning, so we've got some fun, which I didn't include this in my brain dump earlier, so I'm glad that it's interviewing me. But when a kid receives a kudo, there is a fun animation, there's a sound effect. which is really exciting. So for a 2-year-old, they know that, hey, I brushed my teeth, I did the thing my parent asked for, and then I got this cool sound effect. Like that's a cool experience, and for the kid, that is reward in and of itself. They're like, hey, celebration, right? That's a win. Once you get older, then it's like, okay, well, now the sound effect is cool and animation is cool, whatever. But what I really want is I really want to save up for this thing. And the type of thing that they're saving up for can be whatever they want it to be, right? So it could be a makeup set, right? My 8-year-old is obsessed with makeup and earrings and all that sort of stuff. Could be that. My son, he is, he loves, he still loves stuffed animals and action figures, but it could be like a video game, right? Like there could be all sorts of things, right? And again, as a kid, this is practice for them to realize, do I want to buy a small thing like a little action figure, an amiibo, let's say, or do I want to save up and get the actual video game that amiibo goes to? It will take longer. They'll have to save up for that thing, but they have to make the choice. And to let kids 3, 4, 5 years old have to think through that thought process is just game changing. Like I've loved seeing that in our kids where they decide if they can afford something or not. And it's not, oh, mom, dad, just give it to us because we feel like since we exist and that exists, it should it should come together, right? So pretty cool that allows us to do that. We've loved that feature on our end. Okay, so how should Kudosy get awarded? Parent taps to award anytime. That's how we do it today. Kids check off tasks, parent approves. That's really interesting. That's another approach that we've considered, but we ultimately wanted to go the other way to make it more functional and easy for parents. However, especially as kids get older, having more of a habit tracker in this thing is really valuable and something that we for sure want to include over time as well, both recurring. So again, you know what? We're reimagining. That's what we're doing. Kudosy Reimagine. So let's do both because I do love the idea of evolving what a habit tracker, a recurring chores list could look like. So one of the things that we've played with is, hey, if you accomplish each of your chores for the day, you get a number of kudos. So let's say we want our kid to practice the piano every day. They get like a kudo every day. Boom, 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 boom. And then if they practice 5 days out of the week, then they get a bonus number of kudos, right? So they'll get an additional 5 kudos if they get to that point. So they're incentivized not only to do the thing every day, but also to have consistency. So that's the idea. And we've actually played with that outside of the app, and I'd love to incorporate that into the app. I think that'd be really cool. Another thing that we're doing right now, this I don't think we'll get into Kudosy. I'll probably build a separate app for this. Well, I already created a separate app, but I might make that separate app also public. Is right now, my son, who's 10, we've decided that we want to start running every day. We want to become runners. And so what we're doing is we've decided that we're going to run 1.2 miles a day, random number of random distance, I know, but about a mile a day. And we want to do that 20 days out of every month. And if we do that, then if we do 20 and 20 days, 20 miles in 20 days in a month, then we go to the movie theater and we watch a cool movie at the theater that month. And that's been so awesome. And again, it's the same sort of idea where there's sort of like building consistency to like get the reward. Again, probably outside of the scope of this app, I can build anything, right? So you got to really be cognizant of what your scope is for this app. So that's a cool idea, but it might be distracting from what we're trying to do here. So we're going to remove it. We're going to have that be separate, at least for now. So, but for here, recurring chores and spontaneous kudos. But that's what we'll do. So now it's thinking. And it's just amazing how it just thinks so quickly. And this is like really good stuff. Like, so I have been a product manager for over a decade where I work directly with developers and designers who, help create the dreams that are coming in my head, right? And as a product guy, my responsibility is to know like what the market actually wants, which is why I think building with AI is so exciting these days, because it's like literally giving people like me that think like me superpowers, which is super cool. But what's so cool is like typically when you say, okay, based on my research, based on my interviews that I'm doing, based on everything that I know about the market, it seems like this idea is really cool and we should build this thing. Then the engineers and designers will come back with a ton of different questions. And these are the types of questions that the engineers and designers come back with. So it's pretty rocket. It's pretty cool that this system is so smart that, like, I've worked with some amazing and continue to work with amazing engineers. And the fact that AI is just asking me these questions is really cool. So when kids invest Kudos, can they withdraw early? No. So right now we want to lock it like a CD, exactly like a CD. So that's perfect. Again, this is a financial playground. So the idea is we want kids to actually experience what it's like. And if they make the choice that I want to invest, well, what that means is they need to be patient. They need to wait. And so if they can just pull out at any time, that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do, right? So the app can build it. The AI can build it for you, but it's defeating the purpose. And because of that, we don't want to allow that, right? So we're building the app intentionally to achieve the vision and goals that we want to do. And again, these sorts of questions, this sort of thinking is what differentiates apps that really resonate with people and apps that just exist, because it's like people just build whatever they can and they don't think about whether they should, whether it tells a cohesive story, right? And just like any good movie or any good book, you want to make sure that every bit of dialogue and every scene that occurs kind of moves you towards the objective, which is sort of the moral of the story, like what you take away from it, like does it teach you that thing in the end? And uh, and so as you're building an app, it's pretty similar to that, where everything that you do, all the functionality, like is it actually getting you to what you're wanting them to take away from or not? And so very strategic on what you want to include and what you don't. How should treasure chest redemptions work? Kids request, parent approves an app, instant redemption, parents fulfills later, parent approves, schedules experiences. So yeah, right now we do a number of different ways. So right now, our treasure chest is a bunch of Amazon items. So we've got a bunch of items that, actually, I'll just type it in for them. So our app should include a list of popular Amazon items for kids ages 3 through 30. Only the best selling and most highly rated items should appear. Parents should be able to hide items that they do not want their kids to see. When it comes time to redeem, the parent will do the redemption with the child. The parent will do the redemption with the child. The points, the Kudo cost of the item or experience will be deducted from their balance, from that kid's balance, and the parent will purchase the item or provide the experience later with their own real money. So that's sort of how that works. Okay, which gamification extras matter most for version 1? Streaks. This is pretty cool and very, very powerful. Duolingo has some of the most loyal fan base, certainly of any app ever. I mean, it is incredible what they're doing. So streaks, I think absolutely. Badges, levels, celebration, animation, sounds. I like all of those things. Right now we do some streaks. We don't do badges or levels, but we've certainly talked about each of those things, and we already do these in there. And our current animations and sounds, I think, are like really cool. So we may leverage a lot of those same assets that I did before as well. So yeah, we'll let it think. But like over time, I created a bunch of. Let's see if I can get this to pull up. But I created a bunch of assets before. I found a bunch of sound effects and different things like that that are, I don't know why that's not popping up, but I guess I can show those later. But they are pretty cool. Actually, yeah. Oh, actually, here are some of them. So this is, so yeah, here's this character PB. Um, he's kind of the, this is kind of the main character of the app, if you will. So he's pretty cool. But yeah, anyways, we can hop back in here. So complete prompt is ready to build. Captures everything from our interview, the dual chore, spontaneous kudos system, the 3-part treasure chest, CD sale locking investment. 2 things I've built in the prompt that are worth knowing about. The Apple Stripe attention. Apple generally requires digital subscriptions sold in apps to go through their payment system with a 15 to 30% cut. Web sign up with Stripe can work. The app just can't link users to purchase. But the rules here shift often and vary by region. I wrote the prompt to make the AI flag this and propose a compliant architecture rather than assuming you don't build something that gets rejected at Apple App Store review. And very helpful, right? So this is evidence that Fable is knocking this out of the park. The Apple App Store is very particular in what it will approve or deny. There's a team that looks over that stuff, and I'm sure lots of AI systems at this point kind of scraping it, making sure that everything is compliant. So when it comes time to publish an app to the App Store, it can be weeks, literal weeks, just to get it approved, and they can be very, very particular. So submitting to the App Store, especially if it's like your first time submitting, can be something that takes multiple tries. AI might make this much better because it literally has all of the Apple's requirements in its databases, so it can code according to what will get it approved, which is huge. So the fact that it's already talking about that is just amazing, totally amazing. Okay, next, transaction ledger. I specify that every kid's Kudos history be stored as a full ledger rather than just a balance. That's exactly amazing. We have that in the app currently, which is great. That's what makes investing math, badges, level progression, and where did my Kudos go conversations all possible. It's much harder to retrofit later. And this is a great point, right? So like when you build an app, like it really needs to have like this base foundation that it can build upon later. And so I love that it's thinking through all these things. The brain dump that I gave it, the interview that we had, it's really, really valuable there. And it's looking like it's getting all of the things that I wanted from it. One suggestion when you use this, paste the prompt in and let the AI propose the stack and ask its questions before it writes code. The prompt instructs it to do that, and that back and forth will save you from rework. Want me to also draft a shorter version of the prompt for generating just the marketing, sign up, website, or tweak anything in this one first? Yeah, so this is incredible. what it's putting together is incredible. And just, you know, if you are not a technical person, you may not fully appreciate how incredible this is. This conversation that we had, which has not been that many minutes, is something that typically takes a long time to do when you're building actual software in the business world. Entire teams, you have to have designers that are talking to your engineers, talking to your product people, talking to customers, doing all this user research. All of these things go into this, and the fact that the AI is able to kind of work through all of that is so huge. And certainly I brought a lot of knowledge into this, and I have to direct it like a director. And so if the app is successful, it's my fault. But if the app sucks and no one uses it, it is also my fault. But the AI can do all the implementation parts of it, which is just totally game changing. So yeah, this is incredible. Just wanted to point that out. And I love how it asks you to ask AI to propose the stack. That I think is wildly, wildly valuable. Okay, so over here on the right is where you actually see the prompt. This is the prompt to build. You're building Kudosy, gamified good behavior personal finance app for families. Class Dojo meets Duolingo. Bright, colorful, or playful, celebration heavy, genuinely fun for kids. Love it. Love how it's describing it. Again, the way that it's describing it is like how I would describe it in a very concise way, which means like I know that it's getting it. That is great to hear, great to see. Help kids want to succeed. What you'll notice here is this is the prompt for coding. And one of the things too that you learn very quickly in the product world when building software, any of your engineers that are building should really understand, what are we trying to build? Why are we trying to build it? Like the big picture stuff. Because if they don't understand the big picture, then they could make a ton of micro decisions that completely make the app useless. I mean, there are certain ways that you could build an app for families that just completely misses the mark. And so, like, that's not what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do here is deliver something that is just, that's really solid. And so, yeah, giving all that context up front is just money, 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 money. And so I'm glad that it is concisely captured that and is pulling it up here. So help kids want to succeed, rewarding good behavior, kudos, earning, spending, and investing with zero real world financial risk. Exactly. Parents are the administrators, they pay for it. Kids 3 through 13, profile switching. So there's no separate kid accounts or logins. That's huge. Kid facing UI must scale across this age range. Pre-readers need large icons, audio cues. That's cool. And actually something that we have not done before. You know, we've got younger kids and older kids and they all get the same UI. But like, imagine if, you know, the kid profile for your 2-year-old was these big fat icons where the kid can just fat finger everything, versus if it's a teenager, they can have smaller icons. They can see more on the screen. So I love that that's how it's going. And this is one of the things too that I think is so cool in this AI age, is that we're really in a place where the AI can recommend a lot of stuff. So I've got ideas, visions, requirements of what I want this thing to look and feel like, but the exact implementation, I don't know what's the best to do in certain areas. Before, I had a whole Figma page that I would just design all of this stuff in, and I would have to think through all the different ways to design it, and that's a lot. And sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. Early on, I created a whole workflow that was completely backwards. No one understood how to actually award kudos. It didn't make sense to anyone else other than me. And so the fact that now it's, you know, looking at all the best practices from all of the best tools, especially inspired by Class Dojo and Duolingo, like, wow, that is huge. Platform and business model, iOS app only, built for the Apple App Store. Um, Again, we built ours with Swift and Swift UI because we wanted to take advantage of all of the baked-in Apple ecosystem. So I think we'll call that out with the coding agent when we get to that point. And because React is cool, that allows you to span between Apple and Chrome, but you don't get those benefits, right? So it's actually better, from what I've learned, is to just build the Apple app, build the Chrome app, and have those separate if you want to do that. And certainly, if you're just building an app from the ground up, what you'll find is, like, you don't need to support everyone on the planet. Big companies support everyone on the planet. So if you're building an app from scratch, you can just pick one. I like Apple. Apple customers tend to spend a bit more money, and there's a lot of users there. I like the ecosystem, and it feels like this Class Dojo Duolingo thing also fits pretty well with the Apple look and feel. So I like that piece. So when we actually do the coding, I'll probably specify that specifically. Monetization, monthly and annual subscriptions. Sign up and billing happen on a companion marketing website using Stripe. iOS app is where families use the product. Users create their subscription on the web, then sign in on iOS. Love it. This is amazing that it's just calling out to flag those sorts of things. One account supports unlimited kids. Core features, Kudo system. Parents define the good behaviors that earn kudos with custom names and kudo values. 2 award paths, recurring chores and tasks, spontaneous kudos. Every award triggers a celebration. Treasure chest, curated catalog items, highly rated. Parents can hide any catalog items. So I'm curious too if the AI will actually select all of the specific items. What I've been doing is I've gone through Amazon and I've self-selected the items that I think would be cool and that are highly rated, and then I've linked to them inside of the app. So the idea that I'm curious if the AI can just pull a list, that'd be amazing and a huge time saver. And it would just keep that reward list just wildly evergreen, which is so cool. Redemption flow to fulfill list for parents who promise rewards don't get forgotten. Love that. We've got one of those, but that fulfill list is kind of underbaked, to be honest. It's not great. So I love the idea for them to do that right up front. Kudo investing, investment offers for their kids, the term and the ROI. Love that. locked until the term ends, a maturity principal plus return is deposited back into the kid's balance. Very cool. Growth over time. So this is getting tables to show the growth. Like that's super cool. Kudosy stuff, gamification, streaks, badges, levels, celebration, animation time, design language. Very cool. Key screens. So you'll see like this, there's a lot of detail here. And that's why our brain dump and our interview was so valuable, because like if you were just to create a prompt by yourself, you would never get this level of specificity. You wouldn't think to think about all of these things. And so the AI going back and forth with you helps to clarify all of these things, which is so good. Key screens, data and architecture guidance. Data and architecture is so important. You know, like, do you want the data to be just on your local device? Do you want it to be saved to the cloud? So that way, if a mom and a dad want access to the same account, that they could have access to it. Like, you got to think through those things before you start building. And so I love that it's doing that here. Multi-tenant family accounts, love it, right? So if you've got multiple parents or guardians, boom, they both can log in. Huge, 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 huge. Backend for account subscription state, synced with Stripe, love that. Curated Amazon catalog, COPA friendly by design, no kid accounts, no kid PII, beyond first name, nickname, and avatar choice. No ads, no social features. Love, love, love. That's all. Like, I don't want any ads. You know, that's why we wanted to monetize. Like, we want to make this to be very friendly. Out of scope. This is another wildly helpful thing to do when you're starting to build something. So this is so, so good. Android web app for daily use. That's out of scope. Yes, correct. Multi-family features, teacher classroom mode, leader boards across families. Yep, outside. Real money allowance transfers, direct Amazon purchasing. Yep, all outside. Very good. Nailed it. Deliverables, recommended tech stack with justification, data model, schema. This is really good for you to understand how the data architecture is. And again, like with AI, you can ask it the dumbest questions in the world. So even if you're not a data architect, you don't understand how any of this works, you just ask it a bunch of questions once we get to that point, and that'll be wildly helpful. App architecture, screen by screen build plan, working code, build iteratively, starting with the core loop. Parent awards kudo, kid sees balance, celebration, kid redeems from treasure chest. Love it. Start by proposing the tech stack and architecture, ask any clarifying questions, then begin building. Hugely, hugely awesome, right? So what we've just accomplished here in this hour or so that we've been together is putting together a huge prompt for us to start building from. This is the prompt now that we can give to the AI that's going to code this experience, and it's going to just start building, right? It's going to ask some questions, and then it'll start building. But we'll catch that in another video. I think this video has gone on long enough, but hopefully that kind of gives you an outline of how you could create an app from the ground up, the types of questions you should be asking yourself, the types of ways you should be thinking about this. And honestly, like, you should never write a prompt. You know, I know there was a big hullabaloo there for a while that like people need to be prompt engineers and all this stuff. I think that's all bull. You should not write the prompt. Do not write the prompt. You should give all of the information to AI and then have AI write the prompt. Because I promise you, no matter how much you study and practice prompt engineering, you're never going to be able to spit out a prompt that's this good, that's this up to date, right? Because the models change and what they're looking for always changes and all this sort of stuff. So hopefully through all of this, you've seen how to build the prompt and get AI to build the prompt for you. So that way it's a super easy. So anyways, that's all for me. Check out the next video and we'll get into the building the stuff. Good to have you.